Well, when it comes to consumer electronics, no company dominates like Apple. Once again, it smashed Wall Street estimates. Quarterly profit more than doubled from a year earlier, thanks to record sales of iPhones and iPads. Shares jumped to an all-time high in late trading. So where does Apple go next? Andrew Milroy is a consultant and vice president at Frost Sullivan. He joins us now live from Singapore. Andrew, hello. Thanks for joining us today. I mean, it's beaten profit estimates, I think, for 29 consecutive quarters. Is it sustainable?
Yeah, I mean, the momentum does seem to be sustainable. The recent results have been quite incredible, but demand for Apple products, particularly its smartphones and its tablets, seems to be insatiable at the moment. Apple itself can hardly manufacture enough of its iPads to meet demand at the moment. And with the expected launch of the iPhone 5 soon, we can only expect it to be sustained for the foreseeable future.
Are you surprised that we had such stellar sales, given that the new iPhone isn't out for another couple of months?
Not particularly, because the demand for the iPad 2 has been so strong, and of course the penetration of smartphones across the globe is continuing, at a breakneck speed, and of course Apple's driving much of this market.
And China is certainly an area where Apple is set to grow and grow, but as it commented yesterday, Andrew, it's only scratching the surface there, isn't it?
Well, that's right. It faces quite a lot of competition, interestingly enough, in China, although it's still, among Chinese consumers, one of the most desirable products. A lot of the Asian and Chinese manufacturers are producing smartphones that are doing comparatively well in that market. But, the desirability of Apple's products is still very high in China. In fact, there's talk of them perhaps producing a nano iPhone to perhaps address competition at the cheaper end of the smartphone market.
And you mentioned competition from Samsung, Andrew. What about general competition? Yeah. I mean, does it have to look over its shoulder and start to worry?
Well, I do think in many ways the Android competitors, so those are devices from some of the Asian players such as Samsung and HTC, and also some of the Chinese players, Huawei and ZTE, certainly in Asia. And of course they're eroding Apple's share in the smartphone market, but the market is still growing gangbusters at the moment, and Apple's still considered a very desirable brand for many consumers. And in the tablet space, they're completely dominant. Sure, the likes of Samsung and LG and others are starting, and HTC are starting to make inroads into that space, but Apple is still pretty dominant in the tablet space. I think more in the smartphone space, they need to be aware of the competition from Android, because Android as a whole, Android devices together, are starting to ship more than iOS devices as a whole, but the Apple device is still the market leader in the smartphone space.
Andrew, thanks for joining us. Andrew Milroy there, speaking to us live.